Hello, welcome back to Unveiling Truths. The video, because it's so much information I'm trying to get out, sometimes the video is going to end and it'll sometimes go over to the next video, but in this case, I completely ran out of sim space storage room, so I was doing a lot of talking about going on into a whole lot of other things and wasn't even aware I was out of sim space. So anyways, I'm going to pick up from here. We're going to talk about vows. Because a lot of times when Israelites get in highly stressed situations, let's say for instance, something horrific happens, like an explosion, or gunfire, or anything that can happen that can create high stress. The first thing we'll start doing is saying, oh my God, oh Lord, oh help me. If we're trapped, like in a tunnel, or debris is covering us, or we're in such a paraplegic situation, we would instinctively say, Lord, please help me. Lord, if you help me, I will this, and I will do that, and I will never do this again, and I will this, and we'll start making all kind of vows. I'll quit smoking, I'll quit drinking, I'll start this, that, and the other. And everything that comes out of your mouth in that highly stressed situation, or for whatever reason you're making this vow, you are held accountable. And if you do not fulfill it, and I mean every word you speak, see what I mean? Every word that proceedeth out of your mouth, you will have to speak, or it's going to be sin in you. And in some cases, God will come back and deal with you, and you can end up in a worse situation that you were before you even made the vow. So when you open your mouth to God, understand, God is not a man where he's going to take it lightly. When you open your mouth to God, he's going to expect you to fulfill your words. And we're going to go into a story about Jephthah, where he made a vow. And sometimes when we make a vow and we ask God, maybe we want something really immensely, we really, really want this, and we'll ask God for it. And sometimes it may not come in the way that you expect God to give it to you. But it will happen. I remember once, and I'm just going to say this because I like to use all kinds of examples so that people can understand that it's so easy. I remember once when I was young, in my teenage years, I would babysit, little kids or something. And I loved playing with kids and teaching them how to count and all kinds of little alphabet, singing alphabet songs and all kinds of stuff. I love educating and helping people, and I really love little kids. So I was always very protective of little kids too. I came up with brothers, so I knew how to box and wrestle. I knew how to defend myself. So I did not allow people to pick on the underdog. They had to go through me to pick on the underdog, and I was pretty tough. Had a lot of strength, energy, and quickness, but most importantly, I had wit. I knew how to maneuver. I was very athletic and all these different things. And when it came to anything physical, I could do gymnastics, I could run, I could dance, I could skate, I could do sports. I was just had so many gifts. And it was amazing that I had so many gifts, and it never dawned on me that God gave me so much, and I didn't know what to do with it because I had no idea that I had these gifts. I was a very humble, quiet, modest person, but when it came to people picking on the underdog, I became this bear defending its young. If you ever go around a female bear and there's young around, that bear will not play with you. And if I saw someone picking on a little kid, I was very protective of little ones because I know that they could not take care of themselves. I knew that they could not. I loathe and could not stand bullies. Because see, bullies pick on people that are much smaller than them. They don't pick on their equal. They pick on people that they know have no chance of defeating them. That's a bully. Well, that's a little bitty old thing, little bitty tiny thing. But I would stand up to a bully before I stood up to a little child. That was just something that was in me. And so when and to get on how I got on that subject, is because when I vowed a vow, because I love little kids, I was protective of little kids, and I just cared about so much. I cared about people. I had a very good open heart. People would walk all over me. I got to the point where I had to start telling them no. In my youth, I used to do hair. I used to braid, French braid, all that. And I had like people coming at me constantly wanting their hair done, not wanting to pay me a fair amount to have their hair done. I had to stop. I was, only 11, 12, 13 years old, and here I got all these people wanting me to do their hair. No, I'm a kid. I want to enjoy my life. So I had to stop. You have to stop because people would take advantage of you. Then all of a sudden everybody wanted to be my last customer. I told them there's no such thing as a last customer. It ends here. So you have to put your foot down, because I had such an open heart. And get this, I got so many examples. But anyways, I vowed, I don't know that I vowed, but I prayed and I asked the Lord. I couldn't wait to have my own child, my own baby to love. Now as I got older, I dated a guy who was my first love, and he and I were really close, and I was really, really attached to him as far as him being someone that I would share the rest of my life with. Well, my thought was, we're going to be happy together. So I just was so wanting to have someone in my life to be my own as far as my little child, because I love kids. And I asked the Lord to give me a child, and I told him specifically, because, I'm sit up here young at this time, but I said, Lord, I want a child when I am 18, because I figured 18 you were grown, and I would be with my husband and da-da-da. And I said, I want a child when I am 18. I actually want him in my womb, and I want him when I'm 18. And then I didn't think anything else really of that. But when I became 18, the very thing that I asked the Lord for happened. I fell in love, and I became pregnant at the age of 18. And when I was 6 months pregnant, this man I thought I would share the rest of my life with was cheating. He and I broke up. I became a single parent. That man has been trying to come back in my life for many years, and there's absolutely no way, because if you could abandon me at a time, the one time I really needed you the most, if you could abandon me, I would not want you in my life. And I most certainly would not want to make the mistakes of my parents, my foremothers, of staying with a man for a child so that he could put more and more and more children on you and your life. And then you end up still at the end leaving this man. Now you have, instead of the one child you made, now you got like 5, 6, or 7 kids by this same man. And now you're all alone to raise them all by yourself. Because this person became the worstest person that I could have ever known. Totally irresponsible. Would not lift a finger to help me, to help support the child. Nothing. Went to court. He even went to jail just so to keep not to pay any child support. He did absolutely nothing. But God blessed me with an overabundance without him. He was doing devious things. When I would try to let him in his life to be a father, he would blow marijuana in his face, and I found pictures of him with my son drinking beer, and this child was, 1.5, 2 years old, with a beer can turned up. I told, when I found that, I told him, you know what, take me to court. I said, because as unfit of a parent as you are, they'll probably throw you in jail. So I put him out of his life. And so the situation that I thought would go one way went in a completely whole different direction. So when you ask God for something, be very specific about what you ask. What if I had known now what I knew, if I had known then what I know now, I wouldn't have even met the guy. So it would not have been me having a child with the guy. I wouldn't have even fooled with him, because he would not have been anything that I would have wanted to share the rest of my life with. But I would have been wiser with my words. I would have said, Lord, bless me and my husband with the child. So that way we would have been married. I wouldn't have fell in love and he taken my love and kindness for granted and all this stuff, which he did. He was nothing but a deadbeat person, freeloader, just taking advantage of anybody that he could. He could go around bumming stuff off of people, just turned around being absolutely a complete zero in his life, in all manner of the sense. So be careful with your vows. Also, this is something you have to be careful of with. I remember as I was carrying my child, I was doing a friend of mine's relative a favor by sitting her little son, I think he's maybe a couple, 2 or 3 years old. Well, yeah, about maybe 3 or 4 years old. And so I was babysitting her child all day, all morning, all day, and I only charged her $3 to babysit her child an entire day. And so then it came real close to the point where I would be having birth to my son, and I would have continued watching him, but there was one thing about her that really was distasteful to me. I only charged her $3, which was only $15 a week, $15 a week, because I was trying to help her. Well, one day she didn't bring him down. And do you know she deducted that $3 the day that she chose not to bring him down? She deducted that little $3 from the $15. You see, so that week she only gave me $12. And I'm thinking to myself, with all that I'm going out of my way to do for her, she's got the nerve to even consider deducting. It was not a big deal, because even if she hadn't paid me nothing, I would have tried to help her. But once I find out that a person has a certain type of heart, it makes me not be as merciful as I would want to be. So I thought, okay, well, when my son is born, and I already am alone, with the fact that the deadbeat was not going to help me. So, I mean, he put on a mouth of how supportive he was going to be, but when it came to action, he was absolutely nowhere to be found. His words meant absolutely nothing. So after a while, his words weren't even worth listening to me. But, so I had let her know. I said, well, when my child is born, I'm not going to be able to keep your child anymore. And she was trying to plead with me to keep him. I said, well, I'm going to sleep when my son sleeps, because, I'm going through so much right now. I'm going to need to rest, and I cannot have your child here and go to sleep and get rest while my son is resting. And because I was dealing with so much, I was under so much intense pressure, because when you're truly in love and you're abandoned in a pregnant state, that's the worst time to be abandoned. But you could believe one thing, that man was out of my life for life. He thought that there would be a day that he would be able to come back, trying to impress his friends, because he was the type that he'll go out and make a bet that, oh, I can get back anytime I want, or however. Well, when he found out the door was shut, bolted, locked, and had a big boulder there, then he just got ornery and evil. He came up on my job, stirring up mess, trying to store up all kinds of trouble on my job. I mean, this man was a nightmare. So me being far away from him is the best thing that I could have ever done. I even had his own friends kept telling me all kinds of terrible things. Even his father, every relative of his had negative things to say. Anybody I spoke to that knew him had negative things to say about him. No one had not one good thing to say about this person. So I was relieved that I did make the right choice. But in the end, I did the right thing. When my son became an adult, I let him meet him. And just to show him, number one, because he was a drunk and a druggie and all that, I let him know you didn't miss nothing. I said, this is what you would have ended up being had you been around him. So you really didn't miss nothing. But it was just really horrible sometimes that when you ask God for something, you got to be careful, because you may get what you want, but the situation you thought might surround it may not be the way you expect. But anyways, with the babysitter, I had to let her know that, yeah, At first I didn't mind helping you, but now that I see the type of person she actually was, I let her know she's going to have to make other arrangements. So that was just where people would take advantage of you. Well, okay, she didn't. I told her, I said, well, because I'm going through so much, I'm going to need you to write a letter stating that I will not be keeping your child. She was trying not to write the letter. So I had to get to a point where I told her, well, if you do not send the letter tomorrow, do not send your child. And so then she finally sent the letter, and so that was that. And so after I had my child, you know, I no longer was getting up extremely early in the morning to get her child. She had to make other arrangements. But see, you have to understand, when a person is pretty much watching your child for completely free, don't underestimate or take advantage of that person. You should appreciate it. If somebody was telling me you don't have to pay me nothing but $2 or $3 in one day to watch your child, I would have continued paying them the entire sum, whether I brought my child or not. See, she wasn't looking out for me. She was only looking out for herself. So understand that when you have a good heart, you're going to sometimes have to tell people no. You're going to have to sometimes make tough decisions. Why? Because it's going to be in your better interest down the road. I had to look down. I'm a down the road type of person. If I'm looking at a situation and I'm looking 5 years, 10 years down the road that's not going to be a healthy situation, I may as well cut it loose now. I may as well leave it alone now, because it's not going to work out. So please, when you have a good heart, you want to keep that good heart. You don't want to change and become the people that you're surrounded by, but you're going to have to learn the word no. As a matter of fact, you're going to have to make almost the word no your best friend. Sometimes you're going to find people who you don't even know that are strangers on the street that are going to be better to you than your own relatives. It's going to be better to you than your so-called friends. I know I had another friend once. Every time she got stressed on her job, and I thought she and I were pretty close, I found out later that was definitely not the case. But she would come to me saying she may need to come to my place, and I said, that's fine. She may need a key to my place. I didn't care. I mean, I trusted her. So while I went to work or not, I told her, let me know and I'll get your key made. Well, she'd always, get stressed, on the job, and jobs can be stressful, I understand. And she just need time away. And so you got to remember, I'm out in an area and I got the responsibilities of a house with 2 kids, because I had my daughter at that time as well. Or I might have just had my son, I don't really remember. But whenever she told me she needed to get away, I told her, well, just let me know. I would just get a key made for her. Well, she kept saying it, but she never actually came. And then when I went through a turmoil and a struggle and a problem, and I was needing her help, she told me no. So I left this person alone. I'm not the type that's going to get back at people. I'm not vengeful or vindictive. I just leave people alone. Understand that you might have a good heart, and you may be there, and you may be there when others are in need, but that's no guarantee that people would be there for you when you're in need. I had a relative once that talked me into putting my property in his home. And while I was traveling, come to find out letting my family members as well as himself, they were stealing my property. I mean, I had a room full of property, and he was even getting compensated for my property being there. I thought it would be safer, and I thought it would be safer with him. He's the one who insisted, because he was going through some situations or however, and he insisted that he said, well, just keep your stuff in my place. Well, with his history, I should have kind of known better, but I had to learn the hard way that relatives will dog you out. And I had to come when I found out through someone that he was giving my property away, whether he was selling it or giving it away, it was theft, because it was without my knowledge or consent. I had people tell me, you ought to take them to court, you ought to sue them, and I said no, because that's between them and God. When you really trust in the Lord, people will mistreat you, but God will deal with that situation, okay? I don't fool with these people simply because I know these people now. But see, sometimes you don't understand why God has to show you who people truly are. Now, they have the world thinking probably that I'm a horrible person, Who's to say? I don't know. But I heard from some outsiders that a particular sibling was going around telling people that I was her in her youth, which had a very foul mouth, very violent, very disruptive type of person, full of chaos and drama constantly. I mean, and I guess sometimes when you got brothers protecting you, sometimes you think that you can go around abusing and bullying and mistreating people, and that's the way she was. She and I were like night and day. And so it got to a point where I had to leave her alone, because not only would she call and leave disruptive, cursing, perverse, and really just disrespectful messages on my answering machine. I listened to my answering machine, and my son is right next to me, listening to all this, calling me B's and H's and saying these horrible things on my machine. I had to let her know, do not leave that nonsense on my machine ever again. She'd do it again, I'd have to change my number. But then one time, I had to cut her completely off. She calls me with my niece on the phone, and she calls me with 3 ways with my niece on the phone that lived in another state, just to tell me some gossiping, trash, chaos about somebody that I knew nothing of anymore. This was a first love back, 20 years ago? I don't know anything about this man and don't care to know anything about this man. She calls me up to be degrading, to tell me something degrading, not about him, but to say, your son, this is your son, his dad, blah, 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 or something. And rather than for me to get into any type of a disagreement with her, or to, because see, the fact that she didn't come to me in private, she didn't come to me discreetly, she came to me in a I'm going to make you look bad type of situation with somebody else on the phone listening. I just simply told her, don't ever call here again. And I hung up the phone. And I left that alone. Then all of a sudden, all these people are telling me she's trying to put her bad past off on me. So anybody who knows of what I'm talking about, you know, okay, you know it is. Because several of you have came and told me what she was doing. So they know the evilness of this particular person and the devious and the snake mentality of this particular person. So understand that sometimes people who you try to be good to, and I mean this is somebody I kept her kids and summer and vacations and been real good to them, and they turn around and they spit in your face. Well, that's between them and God. Understand, leave these people alone. Do not become what they are. Do not engage in their activity. Do not allow Satan to use them to get you to sin against God. You got to remember, when Job went through, Job's friends came up against him. And Job called them physicians of no help. In other words, you're doctors, but you're not helping me. You're here, but you're better off not here. Now, everybody has a different approach. This one girl told me that when she puts up with that, she tolerates it. Well, that's your choice. I'm the type that I'm living a peaceful, stress-free life as much as possible. And I thank God for that, because I have that. I have a peaceful, stress-free life. Not around chaos, not around drama, not around gossip, not around haters. You'll live a lot longer getting away from these people. But one thing I'm seeing is God is clearing out, getting the weeds or the tear out of my garden more and more. He's getting all these people out of my garden. And he's freeing me up to be free to work specifically for him. And he gave me a dream not too long ago about something that I mentioned even previously in my video. Sometimes I can mention something, or I can just desire something, and God will give it to me. And when he gives it to me, he knows why I asked for it. So he'll be in the lead. And you'll know what it is when it happens, because I'll make you aware of it. But I'm just telling you that he's already shown me something in a dream. I'm not going to speak on it right now, because the Bible will let you know not to let your left hand know what your right hand doeth and stuff like this. And if people know too much about you, they'll know how to come at you to try to sabotage. So these are the type of people that I came up with. People that look for a way to destroy you. And if they cannot destroy you, they'll go after your kids. I went through that as well. I warned one of my kids about something that I knew was gonna happen. He didn't listen, and the very thing that I told him happened. I didn't know exactly how it was going to happen, but I knew that something was going to take place if he didn't keep his distance from these haters. And don't think just because they're your relative, they can't be a hater. The Bible lets us know that our foe will be those of our household. Your enemies will be those of your household. People that you came up with will be your worstest enemies sometimes. It's not that you've done anything to them. It's just that they can be jealous of the blessings that God has placed upon you. Sometimes people can see God in your life. I know when I go and I interact with people, they won't wish me a good day. They'll wish me a blessed day. I can speak with people on the phone and they'll say, "You have a blessed day." They can see your glow, your aura. They know that you're of God. And you don't have to say not one word. And I get this very often. One woman in the bathroom told me, "I see it." I was in the restroom, and a public restroom, and a woman came in, and she just wished me an extremely blessed day. She said, "You have a really good, blessed day." And I said, "Well, thank you. I really appreciate that." I said, "You do as well. You, likewise, you have a really blessed day as well. You have a really blessed day yourself." And I said, "Well, tell me something. How did you know?" She said, "Because I see it." She said, "I can see it on you." So when God has you, He's going to put His aura and His glow about you, and people will see God in you and all about you. And even when you're not at your best in the Lord. I remember one time I met a stranger, and I was not having a good day. And I really wasn't wanting to be bothered. And the stranger kept trying to talk with me. He said, "The Lord is good." And I said, and I didn't say anything at first, but then he repeated, he said, "God is good," or "The Lord is good." And I said, "Yes, He is." And I was having a really horrible day this day. And so I'm like, but I'm saying, "Yes, He is," but I'm thinking in my mind, "Will you please leave me alone?" This is just what I was thinking. So this man told me, he said, "God is all about you, and can't nobody do nothing to you." And I looked at him. I said, "How did you know that?" And he said, "Because I see it." He said, "A soldier knows another soldier." And when he told me and he talked with me, I was having a horrible day. By the time I left conversing with that man, I was a whole other person. He taught me things about myself. He knew things about me that only God could reveal. He told me God is all about you and can't nobody do anything to you. And I knew that. I already knew God's protection. His hedge of protection was all about me. People will come at you to try to destroy you. But their own rocks will return upon their own heads. But see, in my case, because I have such a good open heart, God has had to move all the weeds out of my life. He has had to uproot the tares out of my life, so that when He opens this great door, those tares that was amongst my garden, that would have took advantage of me, that would have had their hands out and "I need you to do this, this, and this," all this that they would have done, they can't do now. Why? Because they're not even in my lives. How can they even contact me if they don't have a phone or an address to locate me? How can they communicate with me when they know nothing about me? Because see, I will be doing things in the Lord, and even if they were to find out channels to communicate with me, you have to get in line as with the other poor. There's going to be no, "Oh, I'm a relative, I get to jump to the front, I need to talk." No, we haven't talked in years. And so I don't see a reason why we need to start. Okay? If there was a reason that God put you out of my life, that He uprooted out of my life, I'm going to keep you out of my life. God put you out of my life for a reason. Now, if you need help or whatever and you're in assistance, you'll be treated fairly like everybody else. But to come and sit before me with your hand stuck out is not going to be a possibility, because you won't be able to get up to me. I will be too busy. And unless you got really a lot financial resources going on, you're not going to be able to contact me, because I'll be too busy traveling. God has sent me all over the U.S. alone, solo. And I have no fear anywhere that I go, because I already know he's before me. Just as he was before Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, he said, I will be with thee. I'm in a whole nother state, and he is with me, before me. And so I petition God. Sometimes I talk, and I don't necessarily vow. Sometimes I just desire it, and God will set it up and make it happen. And so he's already put a dream before me about something that I've already made mention of, and when it happens, you'll know, because you will see the completely big difference and change. I'll be showing you a lot more of what's going on and the works that God has put before me to do for his people, if that's his will. Because see, some things about God are secret, and we're going to talk about that some of the things about God are not for us to know. It's not for me to reveal. Let not your left hand know what your right hand do it, because you have people coming at you, not to help you, but to sabotage, to hinder, to destroy. So it depends on how God leads me. So let me not say, because if God tells me no, the answer is no. If he tells me yes, the answer is yes. I'm following where he leads. So I don't have control of my life. My God has control of my life. Okay? But we're going to talk about vows simply because you got to be extremely careful with your words, as I had pointed that out earlier. Be careful what you ask for, what you petition God for, and what you say. If you give me this, I will do this, 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 and this, because you're going to be held to it. And if you don't do it, a worse thing can happen in your life. Okay? It'll be sin in your life. So we're going to talk about this, but I'm wanting to tell you things in my life, because I know that some of you other Hebrews are going through so much, and you're not understanding why. I'm going to eventually need to communicate with some of you, because we're going to need to be unified so that we can do some work in the Lord. And I'm talking about you on fire, you who got God so built up in you that you're about to burst, because you want to do God's will, because he put that in you. He put that in you because he's got work for you to do for your people. And so, and you're going to be so blessed and with an overabundance of everything that you need and desire. Okay? He is just that kind of wonderful God. Okay? So don't be afraid when he sends you and ventures you off. He's got you. He's with you. Okay? So anyways, let's get into vows, because this is very important. Because I don't want to end up running out of Sims core space again, like I did last time, and I did a whole lot of teaching in vain, because it was not even recorded. So I don't want that to happen. So let's get started. But understand that Hebrews, you're going to have, and then we're going to talk about these Levites, because Levites, you got a major role in God. God has chosen you out of the Israelites to be like a light amongst the Israelites, to be like a church within the Israelites communities, because the Israelites are like the children, and if they don't have constant supervision, they stray. They just stray. I mean, and then they have the patience of nothing. They knew that to bow before the Lord, or to come before the Lord, God would hear them and honor their request. And still, instead of them going back to the Lord and praying or bowing or whatever they did to move God, they just started murmuring and complaining. Well, we know that that's displeasing to God when you murmur and complain. He does not like that. None of us likes a child that whines and cries all day. We don't want to hear that noise. Okay? It is nerve-wracking after a while. Now, with me, I learned to tone it out. If I know the person is fed, if I know the child is fed, the child is clean, the child, we may play games for a while or whatever, and they lay down and it's time to go to sleep or take a nap and they don't want to go to sleep and they want to sit up there and whine, I know how to tone it out. I can go to sleep and there's all kinds of noise going on and I will sleep. So you learn how to adapt. In God's walking in the Lord, you have to be highly adaptive. And the job I retired from taught me how to go with the flow. I went with the ocean, I went with the motion of the ocean until I could retire. And now that I am retired, I don't have to tolerate the nonsense associated with evil people anymore. Okay? I keep my distance from evil. Like Job, he eschewed evil. He avoided evil. You're going to have to do that in the Lord. Avoid it. And it doesn't matter who that evil is coming from. Whether it's a relative, whether it's a friend, whether it's a stranger. Anybody that's about evil, leave them alone. Avoid them. Eschew them. Leave them alone. It's not that you hate them. It's not that they're somebody that's your enemy. They may be your enemy, but you're not going to be their enemy. You got to understand, you got opposing spirits in you. The devil is not going to like you and will use anybody who he can take advantage of to come at you. It's not really those people, it's the spirit within those people that are leading them in these negative ways. But because I'm not what do you call those people, the ones who get the spirits out. I'm not one of those who perform those exorcisms. I'm not an exorcist. I don't call out spirits. I don't fool with spirits. When the Bible tells me to board not a familiar spirit, I don't fool with spirits at all. We're going to even talk about that, about spirits. We're going to get into a lot of things that you need to be made aware of, because we already went over the seasons, and no Hebrew should be following the traditions of this society, because the traditions of this society is not our traditions. It's the traditions that your ancestors, slaves, were forced or grafted into by their slave owners. Just with Christianity, they were taught and read from the Christian book, the revised J-Field Christian book. They were taught in certain scriptures that benefited the masters at that time, and who's to say that they, I'm not going to go there. Anyways, so just understand that when you're walking in the Lord, expect the unexpected, because the unexpected is going to come up. People are going to challenge you. They're going to try to hinder you. But you're going to, after a while, learn how to recognize some of these people. You're going to see them. You're going to be able to see them. You're going to have the spirit of discernment to be able to see these people. Now, some of them are going to, like my one relative that tricked me into putting my furniture in his house and all my property. A lot of my property became stolen and missing, and he never knew nothing about it. He had this thieving person in his house that stole my business laptop and all that stuff, and then another sibling was stealing my business equipment. People are evil. They're just evil. Just leave them alone. Forgive them. Their dirt is between them and God. They have to give an account for the wrong that they think that they've done against me. When it tells you those who bless Abraham will be blessed. Well, I'm not just Abraham's seed. I'm somebody that God chose. From my womb, God chose me, because I knew things I couldn't even understand how I knew. I could speak things, and the things I spoke would happen. I knew these things, and then I didn't know how I knew them. All kinds of stuff. So sometimes God will choose you out from among your brethren. Like he chose Abraham out from among his brethren. He chose Joseph, whose name wouldn't have actually been with the J, but he chose him from out of his brethren to do a work for God. Went down in Egypt first so that he could do a work and have his people saved. He chose David from among his brethren. He will choose you from among your brethren. Okay? So you can have the same biological mother and father, but when God say, I want that one, he'll choose you from out of that to do a work for him. Okay? So let's get into vows. But understand that when you open your mouth, you're going to be held accountable for every word spoken. And we're going to go into scripture and learn that now. Because the Hebrews vowed, and all they had to do was keep coming together. If you prayed once and put your sincere heart's desire before God and he answered it, if it's not broke, don't fix it. If he answered you once, he would have answered you twice. There was no reason for them to go back to murmuring and complaining. So we need to do at least one thing. If we don't get anything out of this, is not murmur, not complain. Go before the Lord in prayer and pray. Be careful about a vow. You'd be better off not to vow. If you can just pray, leave it with the Lord and forget it, that's your best bet. Because when that thing that you vow comes to pass, whatever you told God you would do for that, if he gave you that, you're going to be held accountable for those words. So don't be foolish and say something that you know you're not going to do, that you know you can't do. Lord, if you give me a good husband, I'll stop doing drugs. So he gives you a good husband and you go out there and you're doing drugs worse. Okay? So don't be ignorant. Don't be foolish. If he gives you what you ask, then you better find a way to keep that habit. You better pray and ask him to remove it, is my best bet. Pray and tell him, take all this from me, because he's put a good husband in your life. You don't want to lose him. So follow your words. Keep your words. You know, if no matter what, keep your words. We're going to read a story about Jephthah when he vowed. And this is going to show you how you've got to be careful with your words. So we're going to go into vowing now. Okay, I'm going to have to change the password now. Okay. I didn't know the computer went completely asleep. I guess I was running my mouth just that long. But as I said, I am full of stories, because I'm hoping that if nothing else, you can learn from my mistakes. Don't think because a person is a relative that they would not do something. Both I and my seed know better now. Okay? Same applies with your friends. I have no friends right now in my life, and no trustable friends, put it that way. No friend that I would put my life on the line for do I have, nor am I really or desiring a friend like that, because God is my trust and my hope. And him alone do I look to and do I go to for any situations that might arise adversely or troubles that might arise in my life. I take it to the Lord. I don't take it to people. I don't, people who can't do anything but gossip about you or hate on you. Why would you go to that person about any problem? Okay? They're not going to help you solve it. They're just, more than likely going to just worsen it by putting your business in the street. Okay, so now it says here, and Israel bowed a vow unto the Lord and said, if thou wilt indeed deliver this people into my hand, then I will utterly destroy their cities. And the Lord hearkened to the voice of Israel and delivered up the Canaanites, and they utterly destroyed them and their cities, and he called the name of the place Hormah. Okay. And they journeyed from Mount Har by the way of the Red Sea to compass the land of Edom. And the soul of the people was much discouraged because of the way. And the people spake against... Wait a minute. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, so they did their vow. Um, and Israel vowed a vow unto the Lord. Okay, and the Lord hearkened to the voice of Israel and delivered up the Canaanites. And the Israelites, they utterly destroyed the city, destroyed them and their cities, and he called the name of the place Hormah. So they honored their words. Okay, so it's no sin in them, because what they vowed to God, they did. So we'd be very careful though with the vow, and we're going to learn why. And let's see. Oh, here I go again. Okay. Now understand what this is saying. Pay attention to this. This is important. If a man vow a vow unto the Lord, or swear an oath to bind his soul with a bond, okay, he shall not break his word. He shall do according to all that proceedeth out of his mouth. Okay? So be careful, because when it comes to the things of God, he's not playing with you. And this is on video, so you can always go back and reread this as many times as you need to for yourself. I need to kind of try and keep it moving, because sometimes I like to go over things to make sure you're absorbing it. And I mean really absorbing it. I like to try and make certain words stand out. This, and this. No, sorry. Now this is Deuteronomy 23:21. Well, you know that the verse is clearly there, of course. The chapter, I mean the book, the chapter and the verse is clearly there. When thou shalt vow a vow unto the Lord thy God, thou shalt not slack to pay it, for the Lord thy God will utterly require it of thee, and it would be sin in thee. So if you do not pay it, you're going to end up committing a sin against God, and we know the wages of sin is death. So just be very, very careful. But if thou forbear to vow, if you don't vow, if you do not vow, if thou forbear to vow, it shall be no sin in thee. Okay? But it says, that which is going out of thy lips thou shalt keep and perform, even a freewill offering according as thou hast vowed unto the Lord thy God, which thou hast promised, you promised, with thy mouth. Be careful with your mouth, okay? Be careful about the things that you say. Especially when you say, Lord, if you give me this, I will this, and this. That is a vow. Okay, you're making a vow. And a vow is the same thing as a promise. Lord, I promise to do right. I promise. Those are vows. Vows and promises are one the same, or even an oath. If you just even say, Lord, as an oath, all those are one the same. Okay? Whatever you say, you're going to have to keep your words with God. Okay? And see, remember, when we get in a highly stressed situation, we are wise enough to know that we need to call on the Lord if we want results. Okay? Okay, it says in Ecclesiastes, when thou vowest a vow unto God, defer not to pay it. Don't hesitate to get it paid. Don't be procrastinating. Don't be saying, I'll do it next year, I'll do it next month. Get it done. Don't be holding off on it. For he hath no pleasure in what? Fools, idiots. Pay that which thou hast vowed. Okay? Better is it that thou shouldest not vow than that thou shouldest vow and not pay. It's better just not to even make a vow at all than to make a vow and you don't pay it. Okay? Now he's telling you this about your mouth. Suffer not thy mouth. Don't let your mouth to cause thy flesh to sin. Don't let your mouth get you in trouble. Okay? Neither say thou before the angel that it was an error. Wherefore should God be angry at thy voice and destroy the works of thy hand? You mess around and be cursed. You'll mess around and something horrible will happen to you. Okay? He'll mess around and all the good that you did will all of a sudden go down the tube. You'll end up